Hola and welcome to ProSpanish. We'll begin with a very brief outline of what is meant by spaced retrieval practice, and then I'll expand on this during our Spanish lesson because it's the kind of thing that's best understood through experience. And our more advanced subscribers may want to skip forward to the time frame that comes up on the screen now, or stay with us for the extra practice. Okay, so spaced retrieval practice is basically the exercise of recalling, i.e. retrieving, previously learned language, and this is done usually by testing yourself in some form or other. And the key is that it's done at ever increasingly spaced intervals. So for example, you have completed a 20-minute lesson, so let's say from the ProSpanish levels 1 to 6 course or any other course you're using. Your ability to retain what you have learned will massively improve if you spend 2 minutes testing yourself on that lesson content later in the day. And you would repeat this the next day, just 2 minutes, so it's not onerous, you're testing yourself, and then at longer intervals, so i.e. a week later, a month later, and then perhaps one more time at 3 months, and then you're never going to forget it. And this sounds quite obvious, but in practice it doesn't actually happen that much. Even in schools where you'd expect there to be a systematic approach, things are taught and then forgotten over time, which has made the whole exercise completely pointless. And as I mentioned, you can do this in just 2 minutes. So you can use a simple vocab list to test your recall, or use programs like Quizlet, which is freely available on the internet. My personal recommendations would be using the 2-minute fluency boosters, which accompany each of the levels 1 to 6 course. I'll expand on this a little later in the lesson, but let's get started so you can see just how quickly you can access conversational Spanish. As with all ProSpanish lessons, we start small and build up. So we're just going to look at 3 very easy expressions to describe the weather, and we're not really interested in sticking with a description of the weather. We want to use this as a springboard to much more conversation. Okay, so hace sol, it's sunny. So sol is sun. Hace sol, it's sunny. The word for cold is frío, frío. So hace frío, it's cold. So far we've got hace sol, it's sunny. Hace frío, it's cold. Now I want to stress that you do not need to try to remember this at all. Just follow what I'm saying and don't be thinking, oh, I've got to try and remember this, because that's not how this works. So, hace sol, hace frío. And slightly different for it rains or it's raining. Llueve. Llueve mucho. Llueve mucho. It's raining or it rains a lot. Okay, mucho, much. So, llueve mucho, it's raining or it rains a lot. Okay, and just looking at those 3, again, what's the word for sun? Sol, sol. What's the word for cold? Frío, frío. So we've got hace sol, hace frío. And what's the word for a lot? Mucho, mucho. So, llueve mucho, it rains or it's raining a lot. Okay, if you want to say it's not sunny, it's not cold, it's not raining, very straightforward, we just put no at the beginning. So, no hace frío, it's not cold, no hace frío. So what would it be for it's not sunny? And if you're new to ProSpanish, just remember that you need to pause the video to give yourself some thinking time to answer the question before you hear it on the video. No hace sol. No hace sol. And how about it's not raining much? It's not raining much. No llueve mucho. No llueve mucho. It's not raining much. To say if in Spanish, if I can, if it's possible, we just say sí, S-I, sí, pronounced exactly the same as the word for yes, sí. The only difference is when it's written, that if doesn't have an accent on it, but it's pronounced the same. Si is if. Si, if. How do you think you would say if it's sunny? If it's sunny. So it's going to be 3 words. What would that be? If it's sunny. Si hace sol. Si hace sol. If it's sunny. How about if it rains a lot? If it rains much, if it rains a lot, what would that be? Si llueve mucho. Si llueve mucho. If it rains a lot. How about if it isn't cold? So we'll do it if it isn't cold. So you remember not cold. So what would it be if it isn't cold? Si no hace frío. Si no hace frío. If it's not cold. And you can see what we're doing here at a micro level. We're doing this spaced retrieval. So we're going back and we're picking up the vocabulary that we did a little while back, and we're giving it another airing. And if your goal is to become conversational in Spanish, then you need to do this at a macro level as well. So that means that every so often you need to be taking out language that you've studied previously and give it an airing again. Either looking at the notes that you made on that particular lesson, or in the case of the ProSpanish program, use the fluency boosters, which are just 2-minute recaps of the lessons. Okay, so far we've had hace sol, hace frío, llueve mucho. It's sunny, it's cold, it rains a lot, or it's raining a lot. And we said we could use a negative, no hace sol, it's not sunny. And we've just learnt that if is si. If, si, same as the word for yes. If, si hace sol, if it's sunny. Take a look at this. Lo haré. Lo haré. Now, we're not even going to talk about what it means yet. Just try saying it. Lo haré. Lo haré. Lo haré. And lo haré means I'll do it or I'll make it. So do and make is the same in Spanish. So I'll do it or I'll make it. I'll do it or I'll make it. So again, lo haré, I'll do it or I'll make it. Which word there do you think means it? Lo. Lo. So they say it, I'll make. Lo haré. I'll make it or I'll do it. How do you think you would say I won't do it? I won't do it. And I'll give you a clue that lo and the haré are going to stick together, so you can't put anything in between there. So it's lo haré. What would you add to make it I won't do it? I won't make it. No. No lo haré. No lo haré. I won't do it, or I won't make it. No lo haré. So again, what is the word for I will do? Just by itself, so it's going to be one word, not I'll do it, but just I'll do. Haré. Haré. I'll do, or I'll make. How do you think you would say I'll make paella? I'll make paella. What would that be? Haré paella. Haré paella. So I'll make paella. How about I'll make pizza? Haré pizza. Haré pizza. I'll make coffee. Haré café. Haré café. How about I won't make coffee? No haré café. No haré café. Okay, let's just go back a second. What was it for I'll do it? I'll do it. Lo haré. Lo haré. I'll do it. How would you say I'll do it if it's sunny? I'll do it if it's sunny. So you've got to have I'll do it, then if, and then it's sunny. What would that be? Lo haré si hace sol. Lo haré si hace sol. I'll do it if it's sunny. How about I'll do it if it's cold? I'll do it if it's cold. What would that be? Lo haré si hace frío. Lo haré si hace frío. How would we say I won't do it if it's raining a lot? No lo haré si llueve mucho. No lo haré si llueve mucho. I won't do it if it's raining a lot or if it rains a lot. How about I'll make paella if it's sunny? What would that be? I'll make paella if it's sunny. Now remember, you don't need to put lo, because we're not saying I'll make it or I'll do it. We're saying I'll make, which is haré. So I'll make paella if it's sunny. What would that be? Haré paella si hace sol. Haré paella si hace sol. So you should be getting a sense from this lesson just how quickly you can learn Spanish with the right program. And if you combine this with using spaced retrieval, i.e. consistently going back to previously taught language, taking it out, giving it a good airing, making sure that nothing is forgotten, then there isn't really a faster way of becoming conversational in Spanish. And just before we go on to the more advanced part of this lesson, a quick reminder, prospanish.co.uk, where you can download the full Levels 1 to 6 course. Okay, let's start with this sentence. Lo hice antes de volver. Lo hice antes de volver. I did it. Lo hice. Antes de, before, volver. Coming back or going back or returning. Volver. So in English we would say, I did it before coming back. Or we might say, I did it before I came back. In Spanish, we can say antes de plus the infinitive, volver. And if we're going to translate it reasonably literally, it will be before returning, before returning. So I did it before returning. How would you say, I did it before I went out? Or I did it before going out, if we're going to use the structure of antes de plus the infinitive. Lo hice antes de salir. Lo hice antes de salir. I did it before I went out, or I did it before going out. How would we say, I did it before starting, or I did it before I started? What would that be? Lo hice antes de empezar. Lo hice antes de empezar. How would we say, I didn't do it before going out? What would that be? No lo hice antes de salir. No lo hice antes de salir. So I didn't do it before going out. And maybe it would sound a bit more natural in English to say, I didn't do it before I went out. How would we say, I did it before working? I did it before working. Lo hice antes de trabajar. Lo hice antes de trabajar. And what would sound much more natural in English there would be, I did it before work. So I did it before work. Lo hice antes de trabajar. And there's another one that's similar to this. where we would say, I did it before lunch. And in Spanish, it works out as, I did it before eating. What would that be? I did it before eating. Lo hice antes de comer. Lo hice antes de comer. So I did it before lunch is what would sound more natural, but the structure is I did it before eating. Okay, let's try one more. I did it before playing tennis. So I did it before I played tennis. What would that be? Lo hice antes de jugar al tenis. Lo hice antes de jugar al tenis. Okay, so before doing something, antes de. And we can see in these sentences that I did it, lo hice, but it was also me, I did the returning, the eating, the working, etc. So it's the same, we could say it's the same subject, it's the same person for both verbs. But what about if we wanted to say, I did it before they came back? I did it before they played tennis. I did it before they went out. Well, I did it the same. Lo hice. I did it before. Let's use they went out. I did it before they went out. Well, salir is to go out. They went out. Salieron, the past. They salieron. They went out. So we would think it would be lo hice antes de que. We need the que in there because we're not just using the infinitive anymore. Lo hice antes de que, and then they went out, salieron. Lo hice antes de que salieron. I did it before they went out. But this is incorrect. And the reason is that always after antes de que, that means always when you've got before and then a conjugated verb, they did it, they will do it, they whatever, it will always be the subjunctive. So antes de que plus subjunctive always. And it's fairly straightforward. We can do this now. So salieron is they went out, because our phrase is I did it before they went out. So they went out, salieron. And the subjunctive for they went out, all we do is we swap ron for ran. Ron for ran. So the last three letters, ron in salieron, we just swap that for ran. So just remember, swap ron for ran to get the subjunctive. Okay, and this is the past subjunctive we're talking about, called the imperfect subjunctive, because it's they went out in the past. So swap ron for ran, and we have salieran. Salieran. So what is our phrase then? I did it before they went out. Lo hice antes de que salieran. Lo hice antes de que salieran. Swap ron for ran. Salieran. How would we say, I did it before they came back? I did it before they returned. What would that be? And just follow the steps. Volvieron is they came back, but we want the subjunctive. To get the subjunctive in the past, we swap ron for ran. So our whole phrase will be Lo hice antes de que volvieran. Lo hice antes de que volvieran. How about I did it before they had lunch? So remember, they had lunch is just they ate. So what would it be? Lo hice antes de que comieran. Lo hice antes de que comieran. So they ate is comieron, but we need the subjunctive because there's always a subjunctive after antes de que. And we just swap ron for ran and we have lo hice antes de que comieran. Okay, how would we say I did it before they started? What would that be? Lo hice antes de que empezaran. Lo hice antes de que empezaran. They began or they started. Empezaron. Swap ron for ran. Empezaran. Lo hice antes de que empezaran. How would we say I didn't do it before they paid? I didn't do it before they paid. To pay is pagar. So what would that be? No lo hice antes de que pagaran. No lo hice antes de que pagaran. They paid, pagaron. So ron for ran, pagaran. Now if we want to say I did something before he or she did something, or it happened, so he, she, it, it's very straightforward. We just follow the same process as before, ron for ran, but we remove the final N, which is what indicates it's they. Without that, it will be he or she, past subjunctive. So, for example, before Pablo played tennis would be antes de que Pablo jugara al tenis. Antes de que Pablo jugara al tenis. So, jugaran, take the N off, jugara. So, he or she played tennis, subjunctive, past. What about this one? Antes de que Carmen comiera. Antes de que Carmen comiera. What does that mean? Before Carmen had lunch, or before Carmen ate. So how would you say, I did it before Maria came back? What would that be? Lo hice antes de que María volviera. Lo hice antes de que María volviera. So volvieran would be they came back. Take the N off because it's he or she. Volviera. How about I did it before Pablo could pay? So the pay there is going to be straightforward because it's just going to be the infinitive following to be able to pay, was able to pay. Lo hice antes de que Pablo pudiera pagar. Lo hice antes de que Pablo pudiera pagar. So pudieron, normal indicative, they were able to. Pudieran, ron for ran, pudieran, they subjunctive, and just take off the N, so we have pudiera. How about I did it before my dad came back, or my father came back? What would that be? Lo hice antes de que mi padre volviera. Lo hice antes de que mi padre volviera. And that concludes today's Pro-Spanish lesson. As mentioned earlier, if you're looking to become confident and competent in Spanish, then head over to prospanish.co.uk where you can download the full Levels 1 to 6 course.